Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, I got a little interesting back and forth on whether or not Bryce Harper deserves a contract extension. I'll tell you why both sides are right and why this is one of the most unique contract situations in sports right now. Also, with spring training, games beginning this weekend, I want to let you know what the TV schedule is and how you can watch, the Philadelphia Phillies down in Clearwater. And finally, our opening day countdown. We're down to number 36, and it's another Hall of Famer. We'll get into all of that on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. This is a really interesting conversation to start the show off today with. Because I'm sure if you've been looking around at the Philadelphia Phillies news cycle, you've seen stuff brought up about Bryce Harper's potential contract extension and that he wants a contract extension to keep him here even longer with the Philadelphia Phillies. It's super weird, right? Because your initial reaction might be what my initial reaction was. This dude got a 13-year, $330 million contract, and next thing you know, he wants an extension? Like, dude, you already got an insanely long contract. You're already getting paid an insane amount of money, and in the middle of the contract, you want to renegotiate. So if that's your initial reaction, that's kind of what I was thinking too. And then you start to break down the arguments from both sides. Let's start with the argument that I would have made if I was the Philadelphia Phillies when Bryce Harper comes to me and asks me for a contract extension. Here's kind of what the Philadelphia Phillies, I think, would say in this situation. Hey, Bryce, yeah, we get that you'd like to make more money. We're trying to compete for a World Series right now. We haven't won one. We need to commit this money to players to bring in and improve the roster. We've already paid you a substantial amount of money, and you have a no trade clause, no opt-out, no nothing. You're locked in here. We're not keeping you against your will, but you don't have a way out of this contract. So we could pay you more, I guess, but we don't have to and we don't want to right now because we need to commit that money to other places on the roster. And we hope you understand you're a hugely valuable part of this team. Like, we'd love to pay you more, but we got to commit that money elsewhere. So we can't give you an extension right now. And we think the deal that you're on is fair. Like, it's long-term and we want you to be a Philly forever. And we'll work out an extension if we get down to the end of this deal and you want to stay here and play more. Cool, let's do it. That would be the argument from the Philadelphia Phillies perspective. And then from Bryce Harper's perspective, what he would counter with in that scenario is, okay, I get that. And thank you. I appreciate you guys saying that you want me to be here for life. But the owner of the franchise legitimately came up to me on camera. The whole fan base has seen it. The whole world has seen it and told me I'm underpaid. So if your boss told you you were underpaid, wouldn't you expect them to then offer you a raise? Or shouldn't you at least ask for one? And on top of that, my contract, it's in the mid-20s for the highest annual value contracts in baseball. Do you think I'm a mid-20s player? Because MLB.com just came out or I guess it's just the MLB Twitter account and Instagram account, but the official MLB account just came out and said, I'm the 11th best player in baseball going into 2024. I'm getting paid like someone in the 25 to 26 range. Shouldn't you guys be paying me more? And listen, there's no salary cap. It might put you higher into the tax bracket, but I've done everything for this franchise. I've recruited Trey Turner. I recruited Kyle Schwarber. I recruited Nick Castellanos. I told JT to resign. I told Aaron Nola to come back here. They want to come play with me. Not only that, I've hit the biggest home run probably in Philadelphia Phillies history with the Bedlam at the bank. I won an MVP here. I came back faster than anybody ever has from Tommy John surgery. I'm an unstoppable force of nature on the baseball diamond. And, oh, by the way, you wanted me to switch positions. I switched positions for you so that I can come back even faster from Tommy John surgery to help this team go to the NLCS for the second straight year. So when you say, we can't find the money, I think you can find the money, and I think I deserve it. That would be Bryce Harper's argument. And that's the crazy thing, right? Can't you see the reasoning, the logic on both sides of the argument? The Phillies have no reason to pay him now, and they have other priorities. Bryce Harper has no reason to be paid what he's being paid right now and be comfortable with that because he deserves more money. The Phillies feel that way. The fan base feels that way. Bryce Harper feels that way. So if you're owed more money, you want to go get it. If you don't have to pay that money to your employee, you don't want to have to do that. And now we're at a stalemate where I don't think it's a serious situation at all, right? And when I say serious situation, I don't think that Bryce Harper is getting upset with the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't think the Philadelphia Phillies, Dave Dombrowski, John Middleton, are getting upset with Bryce Harper. I think these are just very candid conversations about the worth of the player and how he wants to alter his contract to be more comfortable playing in Philadelphia even longer than what the contract he signed when he came here in free agency was. But these are not just two-party discussions. It's not that role-playing that I guess we just did there with Bryce Harper talking to the Philadelphia Phillies and me playing both roles. There is a third party involved in this conversation, and it may be the most important party in all of these talks, right? Because you can see Harper's point and you can see the Phillies' point. And then there is a third person. Scott Boras is obviously Bryce Harper's agent, and he is the biggest name in baseball when it comes to agent representation. Scott Boras is a monster, and he's very good at what he does. I'm going to say some things that might make him sound like he's cheating the Phillies or like he's doing business in poor faith or whatever. I want this to be clear up front. Scott Boras is incredible at what he does. I respect what he does for the position of agent. He is as good as anybody on planet Earth at it. And even if it puts the team at a disadvantage, part of me has to respect how good he is at pressing where it hurts and making teams give his clients what they need. So while I don't want the Phillies to shell out money, and I do think Scott Boras is putting pressure on them with these conversations, I respect that that's his job and he's got to do it. So the Scott Boras part of that conversation would be this. And it wouldn't necessarily be to the Philadelphia Phillies, but I think that the idea behind the contract extension is a lot more of Boras's idea than Harper's. I think Harper's going along with it. I think he's comfortable with that conversation being had, but I think this generated from Scott Boras. And here's why, right? It's been a slow free agent market this year, and a lot of clients still out there are Scott Boras clients. A lot of players, I should say, are Scott Boras clients. He likes to hold out and to get the best possible deal. He likes to maximize the profit that his players make so that he makes more money. But also, come on, he's helping his players get more money than they're worth, really, or what they're worth, in his opinion. So he looks around and he says, okay, baseball's a sliding scale. As bigger contracts get given out, you have more leverage to ask for even bigger contracts when better players become available further down the line. Every single contract sets a new benchmark for what players that are similar to that player who signed can get paid in the future. And Bryce Harper is locked into a long-term contract, and he's not upping the value of his position or his standing at all, right? Bryce Harper's a top 11 player in the game, according to the MLB socials. I think he's even higher than that. But let's just call him a top 10 player just for the sake of argument. You've got a top 10 player locked into a contract that's devaluing based on how it compares to other contracts in baseball pretty much by the day. Every time someone signs a lucrative contract, it doesn't even have to be more than Bryce Harper's contract. I'm just saying, like, if Bryce Harper's making, I don't know the exact math on it, I guess it would be $30 million a year. If Bryce Harper's making $30 million a year, and who's a good random baseball player to pick? Let's just go with our guy, Gene Segura. I know this isn't realistic, but like, let's say Gene Segura signs a $15 million a year contract. If a player like that signed that contract, then Bryce Harper's $30 million looks like He's being underpaid. Shouldn't he be getting more than double what a player like Gene Segura is worth? All due respect to Jimmy Siggs. Love that guy. But that's kind of the point. Like, the market is being reshaped, and Bryce Harper is basically sitting inside like Squidward in that meme, watching SpongeBob and Patrick play outside, make more money. So Scott Boras looks at that and says, my client in Bryce Harper is restricting my other clients from making more money. If he doesn't get a contract extension, other teams can come to me and say, yo, Harper's only getting paid this much. We're only paying this other guy that much. And that restricts the amount of growth in salary for Major League Baseball players. Another thing that's important is that this is a union, okay? This is not just Bryce Harper, the individual. So part of it is you have a duty or a assumed duty to the union to negotiate for as much money as you're worth, because you want to, on behalf of other players that you're in a union with, the MLB Players Association, you want to get as much money as you're possibly worth so that other players can get more money, and you just continue to up the status of baseball players across the league, right? That's only natural. You want the players to have the power. You're a player, and that's what you do. And all of this would be Scott Boras' argument as to why Bryce Harper should have his contract reworked, because if his contract doesn't change, he's a major player, a face of the game that is unable to affect how other players get paid. And that is affecting the bottom line for the players union, for Bryce Harper himself, for Scott Boras, for a lot of involved parties, and slowing down the progression of the sport. So that is why Scott Boras wants to have this conversation. And the arguments I already made are why it's very interesting. Neither side has leverage. The Phillies have no reason to pay Bryce Harper more money, right? And Bryce Harper has a strong argument as to why the Phillies have no reason not to pay Bryce Harper more money. He's earned it. So what do you do? I'm very interested what your thoughts are on this. So you can let me know in the comments below this episode on the YouTube. Just go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube, leave a comment, and tell me, would you give Bryce Harper an extension right now? Would you keep him locked into his contract? I would probably give him the extension simply because he's earned it. Like, he's done everything you could have asked for him to do, short of winning a World Series, and that's not as much an individual thing. So he's done everything you've asked him to do since he came here. He wants a little bit more money. I'd say he's earned it. But other people who are more business savvy than me and a little bit less emotional about this type of stuff would be like, no, dude, forget that. I'm not paying someone who doesn't need to be paid more money. He's locked into a contract. Honor your contract. What are your thoughts on the Bryce Harper contract situation? Because it's going to be an interesting story as it continues. I don't think it'll persist into the season. Like, I really don't. He seems very focused on baseball, and I don't think this will affect his play at all. I think it's just a very interesting, even argument, the likes of which we don't normally see. So let me know your thoughts on that. And would you pay Bryce Harper the money? That's basically the question. I'd love to hear your responses. Coming up next, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the spring training schedule. I know people are always wondering, how in the world do I watch my baseball team, the Philadelphia Phillies, while they're down there in Clearwater? Not every game's televised. I want to keep up with them. I've been missing baseball for months now. I'm going to run through the schedule and give you an update on how you can see these games, which games are on TV, what channels they're on, all that great stuff. So you have your full spring training preview guide ready for your viewing pleasure as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, I want to tell you about FanDuel Sportsbook. You can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams. So you can do things like quick bets, where FanDuel already has it built for you. You just click on it. It's super easy for you to put together the bet and get that in. Live same-game parlays in the middle of a game. If a player's getting hot, you can parlay his over in points with the money line of the team he plays on and make some more money. Plus, they've got exclusive props, exclusive to FanDuel Sportsbook. And there's so much more. So many more things you can get into. You can just bet straight up money line. Who's going to win the game? The over-under in points. Will there be more or less points scored than the total? Props, parlays, futures. I was just looking at some interesting NBA title futures. The Sixers are solid value right now if you believe Joel Embiid's coming back. There's so much you can bet with FanDuel. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, let's run through the schedule for spring training. Again, the first game for the Philadelphia Phillies is this Saturday. They'll play the Blue Jays, which ironically enough are Whit Merrifield's team from last year. So Whit Merrifield's first game, if he does play with the Philadelphia Phillies, which he might not. I mean, it's the first game of spring training. A lot of guys getting warmed up, but would be against his old team. But I'm going to run through the schedule and going to tell you exactly where you can watch these games. So Saturday, February 24th, this Saturday, they'll play the Toronto Blue Jays at 1:07 p.m. That game is not broadcast anywhere, unfortunately. But this Sunday, they'll play the New York Yankees. That game is on NBC Sports Philadelphia. That game is at 1:05 p.m. So you have a 1:05 p.m. Sunday spring training baseball game, the first televised game of the Philly season. Then a couple games next week, Monday and Tuesday. They'll play Boston and Minnesota, all at 1:05 p.m., not on TV. But this will be fun. Wednesday, February 28th, a month ahead of the March 28th home opener against Atlanta, the Phillies will play the Atlanta Braves. You can watch that game on NBC Sports Philadelphia Plus. So that's not like a streaming service. It's just the secondary channel on TV. So it's the NBC Sports Philly channel that's right below the normal one, 1:05 p.m. All of these games are like 1 p.m. basically. Thursday, they'll have a game 1:07 p.m., not on TV, against Toronto. Then Friday, March 1st, first day of March, as we get into the month the baseball season will start. They have a split squad versus Miami and at Detroit. So how split squads work is they'll send like half the team to one game and half the team will stay home and play another game. So neither of those games are on TV. Saturday, March 2nd. So you got another weekend game here on TV. NBC Sports Philly will carry their game against the Minnesota Twins. That'll be fun. My family are Minnesota fans. I might have to get together with them and watch that. Sunday, March 3rd, Monday, March 4th, both not televised. That's Atlanta and Toronto. And then you have Tuesday, March 5th, NBC Sports Philadelphia Plus will carry a game against Baltimore, who made some interesting moves this offseason and are under new ownership. So you'll be able to watch that Baltimore game on Tuesday, March 5th. Thursday, March 7th, against Tampa Bay Rays. Can't see that game. Friday, March 8th, versus Houston. The Astros, a World Series rematch from 2 years ago. NBC Sports Philadelphia Plus will carry that game. And then Saturday, you got another game, Toronto. So back-to-back days on March 8th and March 9th, NBC Sports Philadelphia for the 9th game against Toronto. And then you round out with a couple of other games. Wow, they actually have spring breakout prospects down here. So they've got a bunch of games. Let me just run through the ones that are on TV, because it's going to take me a little bit longer than I thought to get through all of that. I didn't realize how many games they had down there. But your first game that's going to be on TV will be this Sunday, February 25th. The other games on TV, all of these like 1:05 p.m. games, by the way. Wednesday, February 28th against Atlanta. Then you've got Saturday, March 2nd against Minnesota. Tuesday, March 5th against Baltimore. Friday, March 8th against Houston. Saturday, March 9th versus Toronto. Monday, March 11th versus the Yankees. Wednesday, March 13th versus the Tigers. You've got the Sunday, March 17th versus the Blue Jays. So you got a lot of Blue Jays games in here. One of the split squad games on Monday, the 18th, will be on TV versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then you've got the Tampa Bay Rays on March 21st. The Detroit Tigers on March 22nd. And the last game of spring training that is televised will be Sunday, March 24th versus the Toronto Blue Jays, as the Philadelphia Phillies will then head back. 1:05 or like 1:07 p.m. starts for all of those. So that's your TV guide. And if you need to look that up further, you can go to NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com, and they'll be able to break that down further. A lot of good games that are going to be on television. You'll be able to get games like once or twice a week. And I love that about the Philadelphia Phillies spring training schedule. So that's good news. And we're only a couple days away from getting to watch the Phillies on television once again. So you should get excited. We're also only 36 days away from the opening day matchup between the Phillies and the Braves at Citizens Bank Park. Let's talk about who the best number 36 in Philadelphia Phillies history is. Well, the number's retired, so that should tell you it's a pretty darn good player. We'll get into that as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. First, though, let me tell you about GameTime, okay? There's plenty of times where you're looking to buy last-minute tickets, and you're like, it's not worth it. The prices are going to be ridiculous. I don't know how to get tickets right before the game. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event, because GameTime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They got killer last-minute deals, so you don't have to worry if you just decide late to go to the game. All-in prices, views from your seat. They also have a best price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Let me tell you a little bit more about those features. So you can see the view from your seat before you buy the tickets. The all-in prices show you everything up front, so you're not getting surprised by fees at the end. And you can buy the tickets really quickly. It just takes seconds to get tickets through GameTime. They got deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. Sometimes if you go a little bit later, you'll get better deals. Plus, there are flash deals and section deals, zone deals, all kinds of stuff that GameTime uses to try and put together the most positive experience you can have with buying tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. This is going to be a really simple one for the countdown, right? Because if you know anything about Philadelphia Phillies history, you know that the number 36 has been retired for the Philadelphia Phillies, and it's retired because of a guy who's in the Hall of Fame. We had Ryne Sandberg yesterday, who, of course, Hall of Famer, but his peak of his career, most of his career, basically all of his career, was not in Philadelphia as a player. Came back and managed, but as a player, not like a Philadelphia Phillies legend, but he wore 37. Well, this guy wore 36 and was a Philadelphia Phillies legend top to bottom. Robin Roberts is the best Philly to ever wear number 36. I mean, there's only like 8 other guys who ever wore the number, so it's not even worth mentioning, considering that Robin Roberts played years ago, like forever ago, and they've had the number retired since. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a 7-time All-Star. Listen to these numbers. 86.2 WAR per his career. 286 wins, 245 losses. A 3.41 career ERA. Just absolute, believe it or not, too. Look at this. I actually didn't know this until I looked at his baseball reference page. Robin Roberts was a switch hitter as a pitcher. That's kind of wild, but I guess that's what happens when you play back in the day and just like people hit and you got to be an athlete. Could you imagine? Pitchers don't even hit anymore, much less being competent enough to be a switch hitter at the major league level. But Robin Roberts is a Hall of Famer. He's a Phillies legend. He's one of the great pitchers in the history of the franchise. And of course, he comes in as the best number 36 in Philadelphia Phillies franchise history. How could he not? So shout out the old heads. You're getting another one here with Robin Roberts, giving some love to a couple of older Phillies or Phillies from older eras lately. You got to show respect where respect is due. And Robin Roberts earned respect. He's a franchise great and all-time legend for the Philadelphia Phillies. So that's really good that we get to talk about a great player like Robin Roberts. And it's also really good that means we're 36 days away from opening day. We're getting closer. Every single time I do this, I can just almost taste it. Opening day right around the corner. Spring training, games starting on Saturday. This is just the best time of the year, isn't it, folks? We got everything you need to know right here on Locked On Phillies. But that's all today for today's episode. Thank you so much for checking us out. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. I appreciate it. And again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.